Should I look to the camera or more just like around?
Look around, you can look at me too.
Okay.
Like talk to Finn?
Yeah.
I first started singing in church choirs with my brothers, actually, when I was like 5 and my younger brother was like 3 years old. And so actually some of my earliest memories are only when I was like 5, and we were already singing a lot in choirs at that time, and I remember that already feeling empowering then, actually, like raising your voice with other people in praise, in like worship songs in this way. It felt yeah, ritualistic and communal and really powerful, and so I think that's like feels like a very core part of my identity, actually, and my memories. I was going to church, both Catholic and Protestant, because my parents were like, one was Catholic and one was Protestant, so we were going to church for like 4.5 hours a day. So there was a lot of church, there was a lot of singing. Yeah, always a performer, I guess. Always dramatic, a dramatic flair. My grandmother was making music in the church, and so she really got us into doing music in the first place, like me and my, like her other grandchildren, my cousins. So she was definitely a mentor in a way, because she also like wanted us to do that. And then I had a choir director in middle school and high school named Wendy Jo, and she was just like so caring and like full of life, and she gave everyone a lot of energy, and I think understood really like the power of, you know, communal singing, taught us a lot of like African gospels, and like, which a lot of white kids singing African gospels, like kind of weird, but also like it's important, I think, to learn like the culture of the place you come from, and not like, I think African American music is the culture in a way. Connecting like church choir with rave, there's like a third thing, which is just like nature, like, which I think nature is like the OG rave in a way, because it's like churning, it's dangerous, it's wild. I think also just growing up, spending so much time in nature prepared me or made me desire other wild experiences. So I think that's ultimately what led me to Berlin. I feel like my temperament as a raver or as a clubber was also very much like someone who grew up in the middle of the woods, who was outdoors all the time. Like, the reason I got so attached to nature when I was younger, like emotionally attached, is because I didn't see an example of myself in human society. But I felt like I belong in nature without question. It felt like a place that understood me and accepted me, regardless of anything really. Sometimes social interaction is like, can be complicated for me, or I don't understand sometimes what people want. I think from a young age, like whatever I am, I belong to this earth and to nature, and I'm accepted by nature. In the public school where I grew up, we had access in the school to like classical and jazz. I started like a school education with classical music, and we had learned music a bit also doing the church choir stuff. So it was something like I wanted to learn more. I wanted to like learn instruments or like learn music and learn how to do all of this better. And that's kind of the culture that we had access to and came up in. Alongside that, we were like, you know, listening to like 50 Cent and Ludacris and like Kanye West and like Lil' Kim and Missy Elliott and like all this great American music. It was like a really great time for music when we were like young people, teenager. Like it was Pharrell, you know, Outkast. There was so much incredible pop music. I think it was probably related to feeling, you know, not quite understanding my place in the world, or like how I fit in with people. Is like led me more into classical music, because it's very historical, it's very process-based, it's very something you can like learn, and it's like a practice, and it didn't have that social element, which is something that I struggled with a bit, like feeling kind of disembodied, or like I didn't really get to live my teenage years in an authentic way. So I think that's actually what led me more into classical music, because I could just like be intellectual, and it was just this safe space in that way. And then I went to this wonderful, well-established, famous music conservatory, and after a year there, I also like got really into performance and got really into like studying, you know, music history and different genres, and like got really into music and performance actually. And so I think because I was queer, because I was trans, I was lucky to have a lot of different types of music I could study. So I was singing a lot of contemporary music already that was using the voice in very experimental ways. I was already approaching my voice in this more modular, synthesizer-y kind of way, and interested in repertoire that was really challenging what the voice could be imagined as an instrument. I'm really happy, very happy with my education in that sense, because it gave me all the tools actually that I needed to like really shape my own sound world with my voice. But yeah, I mean, there's so much regimented thinking in the culture of that, but literally also like, and I feel this very much as a singer, like your body starts to work in this way that serves that type of music. So even like you have to retrain the muscles to do different things. You have to retrain your mind to think about pitch and dynamics like in a different way, to think about expression in a different way. So it was like very holistic. You have to kind of like remodel yourself. And I kind of did that in club spaces where I was really like, okay, I'm gonna like wash everything, let it all go, and try to get somewhere where it can all come back in a different form and like recompose itself in my body. Like when a caterpillar goes into the cocoon and its body like melts into a sauce and it like recomposes itself. So that's what I tried to do.
Okay, cool.
Melt into the sauce.
The sauce of life.
What's happening with this light right now?
Wojciech Garbowski is my name. I'm a violinist and violist. Well, we were asked as a sonar quartet, where I'm a member, to join her in this recording session. This improvisation music always was very inspiring for me. So even if I play written music, if I play composers that are dead, a long time dead, I'm trying to find this frame where you can be free. I mean, we had like sheets of like simple patterns or rhythmical patterns or harmonies, and then she came and she was singing for us. She was moving a lot. She was dancing. She was trying to give us the vibe of the music that she's aiming to produce, and then it was much easier. I think we had so far never been kind of tested like that with someone else's music, with improvisation, you know, and also combined with this electronic component in it. I think that was really valuable for us to have this experience. I can very much understand why she chose the strings for her album, because the way she uses the voice, I think, is yeah, she has this kind of style that I can imagine to play also, you know, like when I think now about the way she sings. Sometimes she uses vowels, and what she does with the articulation. I can really relate to it as a string player also. I was just amazed about dancing quality of this music, you know. This was something that never, like, I could never like ignore when I play it. Yeah, it's just so incredibly dance-like, and that's what I love about music in general. When the rhythm is strong, when there's so much movement, so much energy in it. It's also currently my theme anyways, so I kind of enjoy that very much.
When I started working on the music, the demos that became Fountain, it was a time where I had gone very, very far away in my lived experience and practice from those roots in classical sound. And so I was trying to like recompose a holistic imaginary space of the totality of my musical experiences that would somehow create a harmonious balance between my classical training, my early vocal training, and my clubbing experience in a record. That's what Fountain was for me. I think I'm very interested in my music of like creating harmony actually within myself, within my experiences. I just started to ask bigger questions about music, or thinking, okay, I'm making this experimental music. Where does it actually fit into a philosophy? Maybe about sound and music. What am I actually doing? What am I actually doing? And if, like so many of my friends, we're really questioning how capitalism works and what these structures are giving us, how it feels and how sustainable it is, I started to ask even further like political, social questions about music and what that was. And this led me to really start to investigate and research and like hone in more explicitly on music subcultures that were always about some radical spiritual unity, creating some radical spiritual unity with a community or a group of people, often in marginalized communities. So I'm really attracted to these musics that like compel people to do better and to be safer and to be stronger and to create safer spaces and to empower people. And a lot of those musics that I quite love, these like radical communal musics, I'm talking now about like a lot of like Islamic music or African gospel, African American gospel, or like Detroit techno or classic house, or a lot of folk music that was, there's a lot of like political folk song from like South America and Argentina, or you know, this music that really compels empowerment in human beings and is political in the very fact that it tries to heal and uplift. I forgot a bunch, like also like dub and reggae, punk, you know. Why did any of these genres got famous is because there was a vitality in them of resistance and empowerment. And I was like, I don't know what my music is going to be, but I need to be in that lineage. What came up for me really immediately in that was that I need to make music for non-humans as well. You know, that music actually reaches other creatures and trees. And I have a relationship with non-human life. I feel we're sitting in this forest right now with these trees. I feel myself very literally in relationship with these trees, like very thankful for their presence. Bless you, thank you. And this is the thing, is like, it's a totally different frame to be like, okay, humans making music for humans can be toxic, right? And I'm like, not only do I want to uplift marginalized people or people who are struggling, but even to do it in a way that is inclusive of, supportive of, protecting non-human life as well. And so I think I was like, this is what folk means to me, actually. It's about like the intention behind the sound, the intention behind the message and the practice, not as a genre, not folk as a genre, but as music that is a communion, that is a balm, that is medicinal in some way.
You yearn to melt your head with. Rather, one sun held to your stomach. Cradle it to feel materially and at once spheres ringing and the soil pushed up between your toes. The globe can actually be palmed, as in space and time can unbraid, should you be willing to be a queen, so temporary, like a candle's lit wick. Should you be willing to be?
Okay, so Lyra and I met in 2014. Both a bit like dispossessed from our bodies, not having transitioned, either of us, or begun that transition, I think, in earnest. And it was not until 2023, I believe, that she invited me to collaborate with her on developing a series of poems that she would use as a libretto to set to music in a reinterpretation of Schubert's Winterreise. When I started writing the material that was to become the lyrics for this album, I hadn't heard any of the music. I found it more appropriate because they were kind of being given over to be used not just as lyrics, but also texts that I knew Lyra was going to process further. You know, she was not going to be like singing each individual line as if it was like lyrics to a song, but these texts were acting more as like raw material for her to process, much as she would any kind of like sonic material. And so because of that, I found it more appropriate to not just write out of my own voice, but to kind of find ways to split my own agency and a sense of kind of authorial independence somehow. So any poem at a certain point requires like a certain act of surrender when you're writing it, because I think you start writing into a poem thinking that you know what it's about or what it's trying to say, and I think that at a certain point, whether it's in the initial sketch or in the revision, you start to feel a certain kind of like tug and pull of something else. And you could identify that, the agent that's exerting that force, as like the text itself, which kind of has like an autonomous consciousness unto its own, I think. It can also be very much a spiritual thing, or just more generally kind of capital O, other. It has like a kind of a buoyancy and like a lightness that feels just really like hope to me. And I think in the last years, it's been an immensely accelerated kind of dark time spiritually. So to feel these like articulations, expressions of hope in whatever media, wherever they're coming from, I'm always grateful, and they always kind of break me apart.
The rawness in the process comes at different times. So it's like a closed system, and I give myself a lot of room to, for example, like improvise totally freely. So like the recording session is its own thing, and I just let myself totally go. And I think it's just about like knowing where in the process you need to be detail oriented and where you need to not be detail oriented. So it's like pulling pulling a switch, kind of. Like there are times when being detail-oriented is like very necessary, and there are times when it'll mess everything up. And so I think it's, for me, about like building an awareness of like when you need to put on the other hat, you know? Like I need a lot of meticulousness to organize 10 days of recording sessions of strings and vocals with names and according to a process that I will understand, so I can pull the samples. And that might take like 2 months to put together the sample library with all the names. But then when I actually start producing the tracks, I want it to feel still ravey and spontaneous and like live music, even though it's electronic. And so I need to give myself the freedom to be really primal and throw things together and produce in a way, even if it's just on the laptop and you're like in this like Photoshop, check your email mode, that mentally I'm allowing myself, forcing myself to be like messy, actually, because I know I want it to sound that way. So maybe it comes from also like my theater background or something, where I'm also like, okay, now I need to do this as though I'm messy or more primal, or now I'm going to be like more managerial in this moment, or I don't know. Different seasons need different approaches, I think, in the process.
My name is Jenna Sutela. I work with biological and computational systems, and my work tends to revolve around the open system of a planet that's not our own. So we're friends with Lyra, and we also share a working environment in Kreuzberg. And we've had these sort of ongoing discussions around a lot of things, but also sort of these sorts of chance systems and poetry, whatnot, and I had been doing all these experiments with Physarum polycephalum, the single-celled yet quote-unquote many-headed species of slime mold. It's a very ancient form of life. It was here way before us and will certainly be here after us also. The slime mold is extremophilic organism, so it really survives like sort of what we as humans would consider harsh conditions, and thus it's been one of these test species on spaceflight experimentations and so on. So in this case it felt right to sort of use the box as a sort of layer on a bunch of words from Nadia, and then place sources of nutrition, which in this case is oat flakes, that then together with the agar that's already consisting of some water and is kind of moist, they are a really great breeding ground for bacteria that the slime mold eats. So then the slime mold was put there around the box and let navigate the sort of lyrical path of these words with the oat on top. And so then Lyra lived with this box of slime mold and oats and the lyrics, or the kind of cluster of words, for some days. I can't remember exactly how long did the experiment take, but multiple days, and sort of following the development and then making notes about the slime mold movements, and that really then brought about what we're hearing now on the record. Meridian is the song, right, where you really hear best the slime mold work. And I really love this licking the sun, the soil, and thinking about it being the slime mold that loves the soil, doesn't appreciate the sun actually so much, but maybe it's also like kind of making sure that it stays more on the darkness of the soil, like checking out the sun or something. This is like like way too much interpretation, of course. But yeah, I think that really encapsulates. First of all, I'm really happy that the sort of the path of the slime mold was put to this kind of use, and also I think that track really encapsulates this sort of slime mold type of spatial decision making.
We live in an era where, which I think is just hilarious, like we live in this time when humans think we have everything figured out and we're like, oh, we know how everything, and it's like, it's so ridiculous. It's like we are so small, we are tiny, and so how can you not worship? Why does a bird sing? You know, it is to realize that each of us is this miraculous coincidence of the churning turmoil of nature on this planet, and that even to breathe is this incredible, miraculous thing. I consider my music to be devotional music. It's like these songs are for other human beings who need it, but it's also for animals and for this earth and for the universe that somehow blessed us to be here in this time, to perceive with our senses these colors, these smells, food, sex, water, all of this bounty of gloriousness that we come from. We are the earth, and we're like this murmuring, this murmuration, you know, of the earth, and how can you not want to sing it and bless it? And so that's what I think. That's what I think about that.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. I'm getting ate alive.
My name is Johannes Schnatmann. I'm a Berlin-based independent graphic designer and art director, and I helped Lyra to create the visual world for Hymnal. And I think when I first started listening to it, for me it was also quite clear in the very beginning that it needs to be somewhat multi-layered, with like a concept that resides from the different hierarchies of the songs themselves and the whole album. The overall concept in general was manifested quite early, and I think it was rather like tweaking and refining the parts of it. So I think also with the lettering, in the beginning of the collaborative process, I met up with Nadia and Lyra, and we started having like a little lettering workshop, just also for me to get a visual idea and insight where Lyra and also where her friend sees the kind of visual aesthetics. The album itself is something that you can like endlessly listen to, so it's like cyclic. I mean, it's a bit like the rhythm of the year, right? So we start in the beginning and then there's the next year, so you can like endlessly cycle through it. But at the same time, also speaking to Lyra, it was a lot about horoscopes, constellation, like ancient informative graphics, which are also quite often to be found in this like circular arrangement. So I think it was also reflecting these like historical references and bringing them into the context of the music. Yeah, I'm really glad that I could collaborate with Lyra. I think it's really beautiful and fruitive. So I think it's really like what I said earlier, that it just feels quite complementary. I really love the exchange and also the honesty, and I think just the openness. Even for the workshop, that like an artist, you sit together with a client and you start to draw with them, was just really beautiful and appreciated. So I think for me I'm proud of the whole project. I could not just like narrow it down to one element. That would not do justice.
I have to be honest, like I struggled a lot with collaboration for a while. Like my first album I made only by myself, and then recorded a bit more, did like some mixing, post-production with my brother, my twin brother. So I was like very closed. And so I think to feel safe to collaborate has been a challenge for me. And I knew that I wanted to collaborate, but I needed to set up like clear structures for myself where I could like dip my toe in and do it a bit more. So I built collaborators in at several parts of the process. And so it's like, if you have like an adventure quest, like it was like there were certain things I forced myself to do with other people, in order to keep going in a way. So I like forced myself to collaborate, which is difficult because I'm used to just like working by myself and maybe not communicating as well as I should. I think that collaboration was essential for this record because I wanted it to embody like multiplicity and like many voices in a way that my previous album had not. So a lot of the imaginary too of the album is just like experiences I had with nature with friends, you know, and really special moments that we shared together. And so I feel a lot of people that I love also in the music in a way. It feels like there are many voices and many beautiful souls just like sprinkled throughout the album and the process making it. And also non-humans, shout out slime mold. You know, my first record, Fountain, it was like a first systematic experiment for myself. I was producing myself. And so there were already a lot of like strategic, you know, in this classic sense, like producer decisions that I was making for myself. And I feel like it was just this very natural evolution to expand. Like I wanted to play with more people. I wanted to involve more people. And I wanted to build bigger systems. So like for me, composing a project is always conceptual. And I wanted just the concept to be bigger, the process to be bigger, that it could involve more components. I have like a very systematic approach to doing work, and yeah, I'm really happy with how the process went. I think the result is really stunning. It's like I try to do processes that are minimal but still rich in the material and the process. And every project for me is a conceptual experiment and involves a different cast of people. And so, yeah, I'm excited to work on more, you know, bespoke processes for bespoke projects. I think I feel really like a conceptual artist in that sense. I think like at the end of the day, I'm just a music lover, and I love listening to this album. I really love listening to it. I love the strings so much. I'm a huge lover of strings. They're like my favorite instrument. And so to feel that I've written something that is composed but also so improvised, that is so much full of my own life story but also full of the voices of other people, that is so rich as a concept of like how you can actually make work with other people. I'm proud of the process, very proud of the process, but also really proud of the result. And I just love, like in headphones, the sound of the strings is so crazy. It sounds so wonderful and so rich. And I think that there are so many ways to interpret the music. I want my music to be as open as nature is, actually. And so it would feel bad to me, actually, to like dictate how someone should listen to the music. I think there are as many ways to listen to the music as there are people. And maybe that sounds really pretentious to say, but I think like, I don't really care, basically. Like if someone wants to listen to it on their like phone speaker and that's how they love it, that's cool for me. I think you got like a really deep emotional kind of therapeutic journey on headphones. I think also on speakers in a room or on vinyl where you can crank it up a bit and move your body. I think it's really good music for like moving to. One of my personal favorite ways to experience the music is like actually going into a trance a bit and like moving with it and letting the music like speak through my body in a way. I find that very rewarding personally. I think I want my music to be like a place that people can return to when they really need it. That it's music of sustenance and substance, that it's good food and clean water, that I want people to use it as something they would like put in their backpack because they know they're really going to need some music at some point when they're really hungry for it, you know. And Other than that, I really think that I want people to form their own relationship with the music. That can be so many different things for different people. I'm always really excited to hear from people what the music means to them. And I'm curious about that too.